Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of BrainScratch Searchlight. I'm your host, John Lorden, and today we're looking into the case of Lauren Spierer. Here we've got a kind of shortened version of a missing poster on her. We can see she was a junior at Indiana University, age 20, 4 feet 11 inches tall, 90 pounds, blonde hair, blue eyes, last seen June 3rd, 2011. And unfortunately, this is another one of those cases where someone goes out partying, maybe consumes a little bit too much, puts themselves into a state where they might be at risk, and then unfortunately disappears. And it really it weighs heavy on me when I see these types of cases, because it seems to be such a frequent occurrence where, in particular girls, but also guys, will go out, try to have a good time, and you never think that the worst could happen, and in some cases it definitely does. And her family has been very active in terms of media. She does fit the profile that major media likes to cover. Of course, she's young, she's blonde, and her family has done a very good job of trying to keep the awareness raised throughout the past 5 years. It has now been 5 years since she went missing. And her mother in particular, really, she's very good at sharing her thoughts about this, which if you look into her materials at all, definitely should touch your heart. She is a woman that just really wants a conclusion to this story other than this being stuck in the spot of just not knowing. Her father has also popped up on a lot of television appearances. I've watched many of them. There is a very good YouTube channel I have in the description box below that has put together a bunch of different television appearances and some tribute videos for Lauren. So please be sure to check out that link in the description box below. Of course, I've also included any information that I can find in terms of contacting authorities or sending tips on forward. They have reviewed over 3,000 tips, yes, 3,000 tips in this case, and it is still not solved, but we will look at some of the current news coverage and see what state this case is kind of currently in, how it's being handled by the police and all that good stuff. Before we get into all that, let's take a look at the sites that are here where you can find some information about all this. First of all, the official site is called HopeFindLauren.com. And if you come and take a look at it, it might look like it has been abandoned somewhere around 2013, but if you check out the updates on the right, these are actually linked to an official Lauren Spierer Facebook page, and these updates are very current. The most recent one now was only a few weeks ago here. But you can check through this website, find a lot of news articles and some personal insight. I think her mother does most of the writing on this site as well. But it's a good starting point if you want to try to get acclimated to the story. We can see here Lauren has been missing since early Friday morning, June 3rd, 2011, and was last seen on 11th Street and College Avenue in Bloomington, Indiana. Here is a quick look at the Facebook site. And I found it kind of interesting. The family left a note to please don't comment on any of the wall posts, that it's simply for the family to update everyone else. So if you do come here and check it out, please don't clutter up the wall by replying to the posts there. There's actually a Twitter account, which is probably a great way if you have any information or just thoughts that you'd like to send them. You can go to Twitter at NewsOnLaurenS. And here we can see from January 17th of this year, they posted a flyer, "Happy birthday, beautiful girl, missing you today and every day you've been gone." Once again, including the missing person poster as well as some other photos of her. This picture down here is actually from camera footage and is of the night she went missing. So this is a pretty good indicator of what she was wearing. You can see she's got a white top, black pants. Apparently, I believe she was barefoot when she actually went missing. Her shoes and her cell phone were left at the bar she was at. But that is about all the information we have on what she was wearing when she went missing. This is a picture of her father and some very touching family pictures here as well. So let's start at Wikipedia, and we'll go right to, actually we'll start with the disappearance section. On the night she disappeared, Spierer was partying with several male friends. Her boyfriend, Jesse Wolf, said he did not go out with Spierer or her friends that evening. He said he was texting back and forth with Spierer before going to bed. According to witnesses, Spierer was very intoxicated. Using video surveillance footage and witness statements, Bloomington police were able to create a timeline of Spierer's whereabouts before her disappearance. And here we go into the timeline. They did a pretty neat feature here where timestamps in bold indicate surveillance footage. So if we look at the first one here, we see at 12:30 a.m. Witnesses report that Spierer left her apartment with a friend named David Ron. The pair went to Jay Rosenbaum's apartment, and she met up with Corey Rossman, Rosenbaum's neighbor. At 1:46, we can see this is one of those bolded items, so it comes from surveillance footage. Spierer is seen entering Kilroy's sports bar. 2:27 a.m., once again, this is surveillance footage. Spierer is seen exiting the bar with Rossman. Lauren left her cell phone and shoes at the bar. She had taken off her shoes while she walked out onto the sand-covered patio. Rossman walked with Spierer to her apartment complex. I did hear some additional detail on that sand-covered patio. Apparently, they were trying to make like a beach effect. So the patio out there is just sand. So that's why she took her shoes off, so she could walk in the sand. 2:30 a.m., once again from surveillance footage. Spierer is seen entering Smallwood Plaza Apartments, where her residence is located. A passerby named Zach Oakes noticed her level of inebriation and asked if she was okay. Rossman reportedly replied, "She's okay, I got it." Oakes stated that he told Rossman to take her back to her room. Rossman cursed at Oakes, which led to an altercation in which Oakes punched him, knocking him to the floor. Rossman claimed that this blow caused him to lose his memory of the evening. Now, as many people will point out to me in comments all the time, Wikipedia is not perfect, and I did find some information that says Rossman never said that he lost his memory from being punched in the face. That is some type of misquote, something that came out of his legal team or something to that effect, but he has never directly said that. I looked a little bit into memory loss because I was basically trying to find out if a punch would do it. Could you punch someone and affect their memory like that? From the research that I did, yes, a blow to the head can certainly affect one's memory, but in most cases it's temporary. Didn't say in all cases, but certainly in most cases it is temporary. So I'm not sure if maybe if he had been drinking a lot, maybe his memory was starting to go because of his alcohol consumption, and that combined with the punch might have had something to do with it. But for him to openly state in another news article that he didn't say that, he never said that he had this temporary amnesia thing going on, leads me to believe that he might have some further information. Her family certainly believes that he has some further information. But he very quickly lawyered up, and from some of the video segments I've seen, his family is wondering why he would not take a lie detector test given by law enforcement. I've seen some conflicting reports that he possibly did a lie detector test for the private investigators, but I haven't been able to confirm that. But he certainly is not very forthcoming with the family, doesn't speak to them openly. Now, if you remember, I know in a few previous cases that I've covered, when you have a girl that goes missing, the friends are usually kind of the target of the family of the missing person. And a lot of times there's just an intense amount of focus. And outside of that, in this case, they even went as far as a lawsuit. So it's really tough for me because at least in the other case where this kind of popped up, we now know, and I updated you guys on this case last week, we now know that the friends likely didn't have anything to do with that girl's disappearance. So it's very hard for me when people will now make the assumption, well, if someone lawyers up, that just means that, they must be guilty, they're trying to hide something. I unfortunately think that those days are gone. I do think that there was a period of time where that was true. But nowadays, particularly with the public not having as much trust in law enforcement as they used to have, I've heard from many of you commenters on several of these cases that you think it is perfectly reasonable for people to lawyer up and to not try to help these investigations. For me personally, of course, I don't think I would do that. I think I would do everything I could to try to be fair and help the investigation as much as possible. And then if I saw that something weird was going on, like I was becoming a suspect, at that point I might lawyer up. But in many of these cases, these kids get lawyers very early on, and I don't know that that necessarily, at least for me personally, doesn't lead me to believe that they're guilty. Do they have more information than they want to let out? Possibly. 2:42 a.m. Spierer exits her apartment complex. Police reported that she did not go to her 5th floor apartment during this short visit. Surveillance video shows Spierer stumbling and Rossman helping her to her feet and walking out of the building. A few minutes later, she is witnessed by a bystander sitting down on a staircase and falling backwards, hitting her head on the concrete step. The noise of the impact was loud enough for the bystander to hear it and ask whether she was all right. According to the woman, Rossman replied, "She's okay, I'll take care of it." After they continued up the street, Spierer is witnessed falling again. Because of her intoxication level, she didn't raise her hands to cushion the blow, and her face hit the ground unguarded. A few steps later, she fell a 3rd time. At this point, Rossman began carrying Spierer. So a few questions shake out of this. Number one, why are they back at her complex if she's not even going to her room? Some of you might be wondering if there might be some type of illegal drug activity at play here. Some of her friends did comment that she might have been using drugs. We'll get to some more information about that in a little bit. But even outside of all those considerations, we now see that she is in pretty bad shape. She's fallen and hit her head. She's fallen 2 more times outside of that. And the guy that is, quote, taking care of her through all this is now literally carrying her. 2:48 a.m. After she left the apartments, Spierer entered an alley that runs between College Avenue and Morton Street. Security cameras mounted on nearby apartments show her exit the alley at 2:51 a.m. and walk toward an empty lot. Spierer's keys and purse were found along this route through the alley. Spierer and Rossman arrived at Rossman's apartment shortly afterward. Michael Beth, Rossman's roommate, was at the apartment. Rossman himself was very intoxicated and stumbling. He vomited on the carpet on the way upstairs. Beth stated that he escorted Rossman to bed. He then tried to persuade Spierer to sleep over for her own safety. He claims Spierer said she wanted to return to her own apartment. And this is where I will throw a little question mark, because we're now talking about testimony of these guys that haven't been extremely cooperative. One of them essentially has been somewhat cooperative, but the other few have not. So it's strange to go from, about 12-15 minutes before this, she's in a state where she's practically passing out. She's literally falling, hitting her head, and then all of a sudden she's awake and she's talking about how she wants to go back home instead of stay at this place. It just, there's a little wrinkle in that logic that doesn't quite iron out for me. 3:30 a.m., Beth said he then phoned his neighbor Rosenbaum, wanting him to take care of Spierer. Beth said that Spierer was attempting to get Beth to drink with her at her own apartment. She eventually went to Rosenbaum's apartment, where he observed a bruise under her eye, presumably sustained in the falls earlier in the evening. She told him she didn't know how she got the bruise. 2 calls were placed from Rosenbaum's phone shortly before she is reported to have left. Rosenbaum said Spierer placed both calls, one to Ron and the other to a male friend. Neither picked up and no messages were left. 4:30 a.m., Rosenbaum reports that Spierer left the apartment. This is the last reported sighting of her. He reported last seeing Spierer at the intersection of 11th Street and College Avenue, headed south on College. She was last seen wearing black leggings, a white shirt, and no shoes. Several hours later that morning, Wolf sent Spierer a text. He received a reply from an employee at the bar. Wolf reported Spierer missing. Then apparently her home was called, her sister answered, and her sister wound up being the one to have to tell her parents, which is, I'm sure, a very tough moment. Now I really want to focus on the disappearance, but I have added a link below to another timeline that was posted by a local Fox affiliate, Fox 59. So you can see they've titled it "The Disappearance of IU Student Lauren Spierer." So you can see they've titled it Disappearance of IU Student Lauren Spierer. However, if you drop down to the actual timeline, it's more about the follow-up, the investigation, and some of the legal developments that have happened in the case. So I would certainly suggest that you start with the Wikipedia timeline so that you understand the night she disappeared, then jump over to this link, and this will give you kind of a good background about how they tried to investigate this case and where they took it from there. Let's check out the speculation section back on wikipedia.org. A number of theories have emerged regarding that evening. Lauren's parents have stated that they believe Lauren is deceased. Based on her level of intoxication, they also felt that she may have been drugged while at the bar. We felt somebody could have slipped something into her drink at Kilroy's, said Robert Spierer. The Spierer family have voiced suspicions about the men she was with that evening, as well as her boyfriend, since they refused to take police-issued polygraphs and retained lawyers soon after Spierer's disappearance. While they have not made any specific accusations, they do believe the two know more than they have told police so far. Now, I think you can take some of that information, and we're just talking speculation here, so this is just theory, but Corey Rossman seemed to have been leading her from place to place to place. Was he trying to take her back to her room initially? Was there something more than simple friendship going on here? Was he maybe trying to take advantage of someone that had been drinking too much? Was there a drug dealer that lived in that same building that they went to visit, since we know that they never made it up to her room? I'm really not sure. My brain goes a bunch of different ways on that. But knowing that they bumped into someone there that basically told him, take her to her room, and they got in a fight over it, leads me to believe that there was some motivation that Corey had that is not very clear to us. And it might be that simple, that he just thought he was going to hook up with this girl that he knew had a boyfriend or something. But it could also be something different. If she was truly a drug user, I'm wondering who the dealer was. Is it possible that one of these other guys that were part of the circle of guys that have now lawyered up was in fact the drug dealer, and is that why they have kept this tight-lipped? Are they worried not only about possibly being busted for selling narcotics, but if those narcotics had something to do with her death? Did they hide her body and are trying to avoid being prosecuted for that? Just a theory that I really can't quite get out of my head. The men respond that they have taken privately administered polygraphs, as well as one from the FBI. Since they do not trust the Bloomington police, they say they have retained lawyers. Regarding Spierer's level of intoxication, Lauren's friends and boyfriend told police that in addition to alcohol, she used drugs on the night in question, as well as regularly leading up to her disappearance. Wolf's mother alleged that Lauren was asked to leave the summer camp where she met her son and Rosenbaum years earlier because of drug use. This poor little girl is not with us today because of her drug abuse, Nadine Wolf said. Rosenbaum told investigators that Spierer snorted cocaine and crushed up Klonopin tablets that evening, in addition to consuming alcohol. Adding to the danger of drug use was Spierer's rare heart condition, long QT syndrome. Police addressed rumors that implied Spierer may have overdosed, and those with her may have hidden the body to avoid criminal charges, acknowledging that they have not ruled it out, but they stressed that there were other possibilities, such as abduction by stranger. Beau Dietl, a private investigator hired by the Spierer family, is dubious that a drug overdose death could be enough motive to hide her death, citing the prevalence of drug abuse on the IU campus. Every kid's buying pot, cocaine, drinking, pills, he said. I mean, it's all over the place. So that really can't be the motive behind it. Now, this guy is a former NYPD investigator, but I don't think I feel that that statement is totally fair. In the scenario I was mentioning before, if the drug provider or the guy selling her the narcotics was part of this crowd, watched her crash, she had some type of cardiac event and died, he would know that he's probably up for some type of lesser manslaughter charge. And maybe there is a group of these guys that have decided to try to protect him by hiding Lauren. And 5 years going on with this case, I was very surprised that I didn't bump into any potential theories about, usually there's a theory about human trafficking that would pop up in a case like this. What is said time and time again, particularly by her family, is they feel that she is certainly deceased, and they're just really looking to someone to step up and share the information so that they can bring her home and pay proper respects and then move on with their grieving process. It also goes into the civil suit. That's a little bit outside of the scope of a normal Searchlight for me, so I'll leave it up to you guys if you want to dive into more about the civil suit, but just know that basically the charges have all been dropped. The judge can't really prosecute these guys because no one knows what happened to her. If they had a body and they could see that there was, wounds to the body, or if they did an autopsy and they could say, yeah, she had some type of cardiac event, she had all these drugs in her system, that would be a different conversation. But without a body, it's very hard for these types of civil suits to move forward. Just wanted to draw your attention to this article from USA Today. This is one where Corey Rossman is finally commenting, this is a few years after the case, and saying that he's being harassed by her parents, essentially. Rossman also seemed to distance himself from his lawyer Carl Salzman's statement that he had no memory of his final moments with Spierer. I never said that, Rossman said. You're taking statements that were said by my lawyer. I never said I did or didn't. Once again, just the way these things are worded really leads me to believe that there's something else going on here. And if your lawyer is misrepresenting you, that's really not their job. So I'm not sure why he would have let that go all this time anyway. Rossman said he's been harassed by media and the Spierer family for nearly 2 years now. When reached by cell phone Thursday morning, he yelled at the reporter for, quote, harassing him at work. What do you think? I'm doing drugs now, he shouted. No, I'm at work. Don't ever call again. If you contact me again, you're going to hear from my lawyer. Either way, you're going to hear from my lawyer. He then goes on to say, you should write an article about how the parents are harassing us. None of my friends have done anything wrong. He then accuses the Spierer family of missing an appointment with his lawyer. They actually say they went to the appointment and his lawyer didn't show up. Once again, sounds like he probably doesn't have the best legal representation. But you can just get a sense there's a lot of anger coming from Corey in this particular article, so I suggest you give it a read. Now, believe it or not, there is some pretty current news just as of the start of 2016 that has come out. We can see here reported on Fox 59 that the Bloomington police investigate Martinsville property in ongoing Lauren Spierer investigation. Law enforcement sources told Fox 59 an individual who used to live at the property may be connected to the disappearances of 2 other people as well. And if you go on in this article, you can see the property that was searched belongs to family of Justin Wagers, who was arrested last August in an indecent exposure case. He lived at the property prior to his arrest. Apparently they took cadaver dogs out to this property and they detected something, but when they took forensic people out there, they couldn't find anything, or if they did, it hasn't been released publicly yet. But I did find a little more information on Justin Wagers. From IndyStar.com, the 35-year-old man remains jailed in another case, and an examination of his past reveals 2 cases of violence against women and a frequent habit of exposing himself to women and children, according to allegations in court documents. For more than a decade, Wagers has been accused of exposing himself in at least 9 cases across 4 central Indiana counties. He has admitted to charges of public indecency in 6 of the incidents, and 3 recent cases remain pending. He has also admitted to threatening an ex-girlfriend and battering his ex-wife. They then interview his father, who thinks his son is being profiled. Can't say I necessarily disagree with him. At least from the information that's presented, there is no link to connect Lauren Spierer to this man. It does seem like they're looking for a specific type of profile and then trying to investigate him because of that. Although I don't know that search warrants work in that regard. I think you have to have something to kind of tie those 2 cases together. The warrants have been sealed. A judge has said that that information is not going to be disclosed unless there is a lawsuit that prompts that to happen. So it's kind of tough to know what exactly is going on here. As for him battering his wife, She also did an interview about this potential connection between him and Lauren Spierer. His wife's name is Gail Green, and we have a quote from her here. "If I thought for one moment that he was capable of or linked to a young girl's disappearance, I have a young daughter. I most certainly would have turned him in myself," Green told Indy Star. However, a bit later, they do talk about what happened in terms of him abusing her. Green called the incident against her a mantrum or a man tantrum, but she said that is a far cry from involvement in a young woman's disappearance. I don't know if I agree with that either. She's talking about a very specific case where he seemed to lose his cool and he let his anger get the best of him. We know he's got a bunch of charges related to, admittedly, you know, he doesn't have a rape charge or anything like that, but he does seem to be leading down a path of violence towards women, exposing himself to extremely young children in some cases, as well as women. He's definitely struggling in some way, but like I said, at least from the info that's presented here, I can't make a connection between these two cases, and they just feel like they're two different terrible stories that might not be related, unfortunately. And just as of May of 2016, there was an article at wishtv.com. Bloomington police continue to work diligently on Lauren Spierer case. The department continues to investigate the case, even though it's been over 4 years since her disappearance. Investigators say the case has never been labeled as a cold case, which I'm kind of surprised by. I know in different states and in different cases with people that I've spoken to, a case will usually be labeled a cold case, I think around 3 years on the 3rd-year anniversary in one particular case that I can think of off the top of my head. So I don't know if there's an official designation for that when things are like, hey, this case has gone cold, or if it's determined by the law enforcement themselves when they say, hey, we've exhausted all of the investigation work that we can do here and we're labeling this as a cold case. But apparently in this particular case, this case is not yet a cold case. So I think that that should be at least a tiny beacon of hope for the family that Lauren might indeed be found at some point. And I just want to end this video with the words of her mother from the Lauren Spierer Family Updates Facebook page. "Will we ever know the truth of what happened to Lauren? I still believe we will. Will those responsible ever be held accountable? I still believe justice will be served. Will we ever be able to bring Lauren home? I am just not sure anymore. Going through this nightmare, I consider all the possibilities of what could have been done to Lauren after she took her last breath, and I can only hope that her suffering was short." So as you can see, her mother certainly seems to think that Lauren is no longer alive. And this is where I turn it over to all of you. If you have friends that are around this area, please share this information with them. It's going to take something, practically a miracle, I think, for this case to get solved. I'm hopeful that someone that is involved with this might step forward, do the right thing at some point. I would hope that if they were involved with this, that it's eating away at their conscience, that they're struggling with this, because quite honestly, you know, to be facing a potential drug charge and hide a person over that, I kind of agree with the detective a little bit there, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Even protecting yourself from a potential manslaughter charge, if you really had something to do with it, it just seems like you're a pretty awful person in my eyes if you can't see around that and get back to your true humanity of being a person on this planet that is shared with other people and all of us being a community. It baffles my mind that someone hasn't stepped forward in this case and tried to help this family in a significant way. So, brain scratchers, maybe one of you is the one out there, or maybe one of your friends is the one out there that has this missing piece of information. Please get this video out. Please use the information I've put in the description box below so you can dig into the details more. Use the contact information if you have any tips that can help on this. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this edition of BrainScratch Searchlight. You guys know this is a passion project for me. It's very important to me that we keep raising exposure, even on some of these cases that had plenty of exposure 5 years ago and has steadily tapered off now. It's just as important. It's really unfair to this family that Lauren cannot be brought home and let them process whatever happened to her, whatever state she's in. I hope each of you are having a great week. Take care, and I'll see you on the next show on the Geek and Dorks channel.